Ava
Cheers.
spent years surrounded
Let me
by
get one
people,
more.
yet she had never felt more alone. She thought loneliness was her biggest problem. She was wrong. The truth was far deeper. And once she saw it, everything changed. This is the story of Ava. Ava had over 12,000 followers. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Every day, people commented on her photos, replied to her stories, invited her to events, and filled her inbox with messages. From the outside, her life looked perfect. She was always smiling, always surrounded by people, always doing something exciting. If you asked anyone who knew her, they would have said the same thing. Ava has so many friends. But there was one thing nobody knew, not even Ava herself. The loneliest moment of her life wasn't when she was alone. It happened while she was surrounded by people. And the discovery she made that night would completely change how she saw friendship, love, and even God himself. Ava spent most of her 20s building relationships. Or at least, that's what she thought she was doing. She rarely spent weekends alone. There was always another birthday dinner, another brunch, another gathering, another event, another group photo, another conversation. If someone needed help moving, Ava was there. If someone needed advice, Ava listened. If someone needed encouragement, Ava answered the phone. People loved having Ava around. She became the dependable one, the reliable one, the friend everyone could call. At first, that made her feel important, needed, valuable. But over time, strange things started happening. Small things, the kind of things that are easy to ignore. She noticed she was always the one reaching out first, always the one checking in, always the one making plans. When she stopped messaging people, conversations disappeared. When she stopped organizing gatherings, nobody replaced her. It bothered her, but she told herself she was overthinking. Everyone was busy. Life happened. Nothing personal. Then one afternoon, she met several close friends for lunch. The conversation lasted nearly 3 hours. People talked about vacations, relationships, work problems, future plans. Everyone had something to share. Everyone had a story. Everyone had a voice. When Ava got home that evening, she sat quietly on her couch. Something felt wrong. She replayed the lunch in her mind. Then it hit her. Not one person had asked how she was doing. Not once. 3 hours together. And nobody noticed she had barely spoken about herself. Nobody asked if she was okay. Nobody asked what she was struggling with. Nobody asked anything beyond surface-level conversation. For the first time, Ava wondered whether people actually knew her, or whether they simply enjoyed having her around. The thought stayed with her. Months later, one of her closest friends got engaged. Ava was genuinely happy for her. She helped with planning, helped organize celebrations, spent hours listening to wedding stress. She showed up every time she was needed. Then, one evening, she opened social media and felt her stomach drop. Photos filled her screen. A bridal gathering, a dinner, a weekend event. People she considered her closest friends were all there, laughing, celebrating, making memories without her. At first, she assumed it was a mistake. Then another set of photos appeared. Then another. The realization slowly sank in. Several events had happened. Everyone knew. Everyone was invited. Everyone except her. What hurt wasn't the exclusion. It was the fact that nobody even noticed she wasn't there. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. She kept asking herself the same question. If she disappeared tomorrow, who would actually notice? The question scared her, so she buried it. She became busier than ever. More events, more social media, more conversations, more distractions, anything to avoid sitting alone with her thoughts. For a while, it worked. Then, her birthday arrived. Ava decided this year would be different. She booked a beautiful restaurant, reserved a large table, invited 12 people she considered her closest friends. Almost everyone said yes. For weeks, she looked forward to it. Maybe this would finally prove her fears were wrong. Maybe she mattered more than she thought. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she felt. The night finally arrived. Ava got dressed, arrived early. The table was ready. 12 chairs, a birthday cake. Everything looked perfect. She checked her phone. Nothing. A few minutes later, the first message arrived. A last-minute emergency. Then another. A scheduling issue. Then another. Something came up. The waiter kept walking over, asking if the rest of her party was still coming. Every time, Ava forced a smile. Every time, she said yes. Deep down, she knew the truth. Nobody was coming. Around her, families laughed together. Friends celebrated birthdays. People sang songs, took photos, created memories. Meanwhile, Ava sat alone at a table built for 12 people. The birthday cake remained untouched, and for the first time in years, she stopped pretending. She went home, closed the door, and cried harder than she had cried in a very long time, because the birthday wasn't the real pain. The real pain was what it confirmed. She had spent years being there for everyone, yet when she needed people most, nobody seemed to be there for her. But the worst moment was still ahead. Several weeks later, Ava suffered a panic attack. At first, she thought she was dying. Her heart raced uncontrollably. Her chest tightened. Her breathing became shallow. Fear rushed through her body. She collapsed onto the floor of her apartment. Desperate, terrified, completely overwhelmed. Instinctively, she reached for her phone. This was the moment somebody would come. This was the moment friendship would become real. She opened her contacts. Hundreds of names appeared. Friends, co-workers, church members, former classmates, people she spoke to every week. Yet as she scrolled, something stopped her. A question entered her mind. Who could she call? Not who would answer. Who would come? Who would leave their house and sit beside her? Who truly knew her? Who truly loved her? Name after name appeared on the screen. Yet she couldn't press the call button. Because deep down, she wasn't sure. For several minutes, she sat there crying, phone in hand, unable to call a single person. And in that moment, the truth finally became impossible to ignore. She had spent years collecting attention, but attention wasn't connection. She had spent years becoming visible, but visibility wasn't intimacy. She had spent years trying to be loved by everyone. Because deep down, she was terrified that if people saw the real her, they might leave. That realization changed everything. For the first time, Ava understood that loneliness wasn't her real problem. The real problem was that she had spent years performing a version of herself that nobody could truly know. And if nobody truly knew her, how could she ever feel truly loved? During the weeks that followed, Ava pulled away from social media. Not because she wanted attention, not because she wanted people to miss her. She was simply tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of performing. Tired of feeling lonely in rooms full of people. For the first time in years, she spent long evenings alone with her thoughts. And that's when she came across a woman in the Bible named Hagar. At first, Ava almost skipped over the story. Hagar wasn't one of the famous names everyone talked about. She wasn't Moses. She wasn't David. She wasn't Esther. She was a servant, a woman caught in circumstances she didn't choose, a woman who often felt invisible. But as Ava continued reading, something unexpected happened. The story began to feel familiar, painfully familiar. Hagar knew what it felt like to be overlooked. She knew what it felt like to be used when people needed something from her and forgotten when they didn't. She knew what it felt like to believe nobody truly cared about her future. At one point, Hagar found herself completely alone in the wilderness. No support, no crowd, no certainty, no one she could depend on. From a human perspective, it looked like her story didn't matter. It looked like nobody saw her. Nobody cared. Nobody was paying attention. But then, something extraordinary happened. God met her there. Not after everything was fixed, not after her circumstances improved, not after she escaped her problems. Right there in the middle of her loneliness, right there in the middle of her pain. And after that encounter, Hagar said something remarkable. She called God, the God who sees me. When Ava read those words, she stopped, because she realized something she had never understood before. Her deepest need was not more friends. Her deepest need was not more followers. Her deepest need was not more invitations. Her deepest need was to know that she wasn't invisible, to know that someone truly saw her. Not the smiling version, not the polished version, not the version she posted online. The real version, the exhausted version, the hurting version, the lonely version. And suddenly, Hagar's story became her story. For years, Ava had been searching for significance in people. She wanted to be chosen, remembered, prioritized, validated, but no amount of attention had ever healed the emptiness she carried.
Cheers.
Because attention
Let me
was
get one
never what she
more.
was actually looking for. She was looking for belonging, and belonging starts with being known. As she continued reading scripture, Ava began noticing something beautiful. Again and again, God seemed drawn to people who felt unseen, the rejected, the forgotten, the overlooked, the lonely, the people everyone else ignored, while the world chased influence, status, popularity, and approval. God kept showing up for people who felt invisible. And for the first time in her life, Ava began believing that maybe God saw her too. Not because she was impressive, not because she was successful, not because she had followers, but simply because she mattered to him. That realization didn't instantly remove her loneliness. It didn't magically solve every problem, but it changed the direction of her life. Because for the first time, she stopped looking to people to tell her who she was and started listening to God instead. She joined a small Bible study, not a crowd, not a big social event, just a few people committed to knowing each other beyond surface conversations. At first, it felt uncomfortable. She was used to being the listener, the helper, the strong one. Now she was learning how to be vulnerable, learning how to admit she wasn't okay, learning how to let people see the real her. And something surprising happened. The more honest she became, the less lonely she felt. Not because she suddenly had hundreds of close friends, but because she finally had a few real ones. For years, she had chased quantity. Now she was discovering the power of depth. And underneath it all, she was discovering something even greater, that before anyone truly knew her, God already did. Before anyone understood her, God already did. Before anyone chose her, God already had. Maybe that's where you find yourself today. Maybe you're surrounded by people and still feel alone. Maybe your phone is full of contacts. Maybe your social media makes it look like everything is fine. Maybe everyone assumes you're doing well, yet deep down, you feel unseen. If that's you, I want you to remember something. Loneliness is not always the absence of people. Sometimes it's the absence of being known. And the beautiful truth of Hagar's story is that God sees what everyone else misses. He sees the burden you've been carrying. He sees the tears you've cried in private. He sees the prayers you've whispered when nobody else was listening. He sees the version of you that never appears in photos, the fears, the disappointments, the questions, the wounds. Nothing is hidden from him. You do not have to earn his attention. You already have it. Genesis 16:13 says, "You are the God who sees me." Those words changed Hagar's life. They changed Ava's life. And they can change yours. Because the truth is, Ava spent years chasing thousands of people. But what finally changed her life wasn't being known by more people. It was discovering that she had always been fully known by God. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. The God who found Hagar in the wilderness still finds people today. The God who saw her sees you right now, exactly where you are. And sometimes that realization is the first step toward healing a loneliness you've carried for far too long.